The cafe in Gramercy Park was all crystal chandeliers and polished marble, the kind of place that smells like old money and disappointment. I watched Serafina Thorne sweep past my outstretched hand, didn't even acknowledge the greeting, her designer heels clicking like a metronome against the floor, a sound that said, "I have no time for you." She sat down, leaned back, and just inspected me. Simple work shirt, a slight smudge of transmission oil on the cuff. I'd fixed Mrs. Rodriguez's old Buick at 5 a.m. so she could make her shift in my hands, which she saw only as calloused proof of manual labor. "So you're Jackson," she said, and I swear, the word dripped with some kind of expensive poison. "Just a mechanic?" The word hung there, heavy and intentional, meant to wound. She had absolutely no idea that in 30 minutes, this "just a mechanic" would become the only reason she was still breathing. Serafina Thorne, 34, CEO of Siren Capital, moved billions with surgical precision. Her penthouse wasn't just in Manhattan, it was 40 stories above Manhattan, a glass cage she'd conquered one ruthless takeover at a time. Vulnerability for her wasn't just a weakness, it was a memory. 3 years ago, she'd stood at the altar, waiting for a man who chose that morning to empty their accounts and disappear with his secretary. 200 guests watched the transformation from abandoned bride to something harder than any metal I've ever worked with. The humiliation crystallized into a rule: draw first blood. Working class people like me just reminded her of the girl she used to be: soft, trusting, DSTROYABLE.me. Jackson, Jax Riley, 36. I move with a stillness that comes from learning that a dangerous threat rarely announces itself with a bullhorn. Those hands she scoffed at? They once assembled rifles in the dark, held dying friends, and built my daughter Lily a treehouse tough enough to survive a hurricane. What she didn't know was that I still woke up at 3:17 a.m. sometimes, the desert dust and blood of my dead squad mate fresh on my skin. It's been 4 years since my last tour in Helmand, but my training is my skeleton. You remove it, I collapse. I chose wrenching engines over 6-figure private military contracts because Lily needed a father who came home every night, not one who might come home in a box. Our mutual friend Chloe set up this disastrous meeting, telling Serafina it was a business contact, telling me it was about classic car restoration. Neither was the full truth, but both were easier than admitting sometimes. The cure for one wound is exposure to another. Working with your hands, Serafina mused, stirring her $16 matcha latte with deliberate slowness. It must be so liberating. No quarterly projections, no real consequences beyond whether an engine starts. She smiled, sharp enough to cut glass. Though I imagine the intellectual stimulation plateaus quickly. What do you think about under those cars? Grocery lists? Baseball scores? I recognized the interrogation technique. Establish superiority, probe for weakness, maintain psychological distance. I noticed the rhythm of her fingers drumming the marble fast, anxious. And her eyes, tracking every movement in the cafe like she was plotting escape routes. Trauma, I thought. Recognized trauma, even in Laubaudens. Yesterday I thought about fluid dynamics, I said evenly, letting my quiet Oklahoma accent carry the weight. How brake fluid behaves under extreme pressure. How systems designed to stop something can fail catastrophically if one component is compromised. I paused, meeting her gaze. Also thought about Lily's science project on Venus, the atmospheric pressure that would crush a human in seconds. Her smile flickered. She hadn't expected friction. How wonderfully arcane. Though I suppose someone has to understand the mundane mechanics. She leaned back, dismissing me with her posture. I just closed a 300 million acquisition. That will reshape the pharmaceutical industry. The kind of complexity requiring years of education. Serafina pressed herself against the floor, watching me. I saw her eyes track my hand as my fingers tested the weight of the water pitcher. There was only calculation in my movements. When the addict was close enough, I moved with violence, precise and choreographed. The pitcher became a weapon, swinging an arc that connected with his temple with a sickening, wet crack. The man dropped instantly. I scooped up the gun, checking the chamber in one automatic motion. Kitchen, move. I hauled Serafina to her feet. Bullets shattered the espresso machine we'd been sitting beside moments before. My arm went around her waist, lifting her partially off the ground as I moved us behind the service counter. Her mind struggled to process it. This man she'd mocked as simple moved like something out of a tactical nightmare. Every movement was economical, purposeful, lethal. 2 hostiles remaining, I said, more to myself. Leader at 12 o'clock, using the mother as shield. Second shooter flanking left. I forced her to look at me. Serafina, listen. When I move, you go through that kitchen door. Exit to the alley. Run and don't stop. Understand? She nodded, unable to speak. Her designer armor was gone, leaving only the core of who she was. A woman who'd built walls so high she'd forgotten they were still made of paper. Come out, hero. Come out, or I start shooting civilians. The leader's voice cut through the chaos. You've got 5 seconds. Through the service window, I saw the leader grab a little girl, maybe 5 years old, pressing the gun to her temple while her mother sobbed. 4. Tactical assessment versus human cost. Save one versus save many. The calculation no soldier ever escapes. Wait. I called out, already moving. I'm coming out. Let the girl go. I set the gun on the counter, visible but not abandoned, and stepped out with hands raised, offering myself as a target. The leader's gun swung toward me. The little girl momentarily forgotten. You killed Marcus, the leader choked out, his voice thick with what might have been grief. He was my brother. And you killed him for what? Money that's insured? He's not dead, I said, steady and sure. Concussed, maybe a skull fracture, but alive. I know where to hit to drop someone without killing them. Your brother needs medical attention, but he'll survive if we end this now. Up close, I saw he was young, maybe 23, with exhaustion that came from carrying too much weight too long. You don't understand, he said, his gun hand trembling. They've got my daughter. Said if I don't... That night, Serafina stood in her penthouse, but it felt different. Not like a fortress, but like a mausoleum. All her money, all her power, had been useless. What had mattered was courage, compassion, the willingness to bleed for others. At the hospital, she met Lily. The little girl had my eyes and my steady presence. Is this the princess lady? Lily asked. Princess lady? Serafina was confused. Daddy said he was meeting a princess today. Someone who lives in a tower and doesn't come down much. I'd flushed slightly. I said she was successful, Lily. You said she was sad, Lily corrected with the brutal honesty of children. You said sometimes people build towers so high they forget how to come down. The memory made Seraphine's eyes burn. She'd built her tower so high she couldn't even see the ground anymore. But today, I had pulled her down to earth, shown her what real strength looked like. It wasn't hostile takeovers. It was a father holding his daughter's hand with scarred fingers. The next morning came gray and uncertain. Serafina hadn't slept. She dressed carefully, jeans and a sweater clothes. She'd had to order because her closet contained only armor. She found us at the park I'd mentioned. I was on a bench, moving stiffly, Lily playing on the swings. Hi, Serafina said, the word feeling utterly inadequate. She held out the coffee black, no sugar, the way she'd seen me drink it. I wanted to check on you, both of you. And I brought something for Lily. A book about a brave knight who was also a brilliant inventor. Lily ran over, examining the book. The knight is a girl, she observed. The strongest knights sometimes are, Serafina said. Like you with the fire extinguisher, Lily said. Daddy told me you hit the bad man. That was brave. Your dad was the brave one. Daddy's always brave, Lily said matter-of-factly. But he said you were brave too, even though you were scared. He said that's the best kind of brave. I shifted on the bench, making room. Sit, I said simply. I owe you an apology, Serafina began. The things I said ... You were protecting yourself, I interrupted. I could see it. The way you kept checking exits, the way you held your phone like a shield. Trauma recognizes trauma. The simple truth of it broke something in her. I was supposed to get married 3 years ago. He ran off that morning with everything: money, dignity, faith in people. I rebuilt myself to never need anyone again. And I came back from Afghanistan with pieces missing, I said quietly. Parts of me that knew how. Then we'll drink tea and pretend it's coffee. We're good at pretending. Tuesday came unseasonably warm. I arrived exactly on time. When I extended my hand, she took it properly. Feeling the calluses she'd once mocked, understanding now that they were evidence of work that mattered. Fixing things. Holding his daughter's hand. So, she said. As we sat, me facing the door, her accepting that this was who I was. Tell me about Lily's mother. I answered honestly. She waited through 2 deployments, but the 3rd one broke us. I came back different, quieter. I'd lost the ability to care about small things. You can't love someone back to who they used to be. Do you miss it? Who you used to be. Sometimes I miss being able to sleep without checking the locks 3 times. I miss believing that most people are basically good. But that version of me couldn't have protected those people yesterday. Couldn't have talked Tommy down. Maybe we become who we need to be, not who we want to be. She told me about the wedding that wasn't, about standing in that church, feeling she was dissolving. I thought money was armor. Power was a weapon. If I was meaner, more successful than everyone else, I'd be safe. Were you safe? I was empty, she admitted. Successful and empty. I'd won everything and had nothing. We talked for 3 hours. She learned I read philosophy to try to understand what I'd done in war. I learned she secretly watched terrible reality TV shows about housewives, just to remember that everyone was messy, even with money. I learned her cruelty was fear crystallized. She discovered my gentleness was a choice, not a default. I have to pick up Lily, I said finally. Can I come? She asked. I mean, if that's okay. I bought her another book. When Lily saw us both and ran over with her backpack bouncing. When she grabbed Seraphine's hand as naturally as she grabbed mine. Something in Seraphine's chest cracked open. 3 months became 6. Serafina learned the rhythm of our life. Early mornings, my nightmares that sent me into the garage to rebuild an engine until my hands stopped shaking. Soccer games where she cheered louder than anyone. It wasn't easy. She'd slip, make a cutting remark that wounded me. I'd disappear into myself, unreachable. Fighting old battles, but there were moments of grace. I taught her to change oil. My hands over hers, showing her how to feel when something was wrong by touch alone. She taught Lily about compound interest using her piggy bank, making math magical. The house we found was in Brooklyn. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a yard that needed work. A garage that made my eyes light up. Moving day came 1 year after that violent first date. That evening, with boxes everywhere and Lily asleep upstairs, Serafina found me on the back porch. Regrets? She asked. Just thinking about paths, I said. How I needed to go through hell to find this. How you needed to build those walls to learn to tear them down. How a violent robbery became our origin story. We should probably tell people we met at a coffee shop, Serafina suggested. Leave out the guns and existential crisis. Lily won't let us. She's already told her entire class you're a princess who fought bad guys with a fire extinguisher. I almost lost this, she said, growing serious. Almost let my fear and prejudice rob me of this life. If you hadn't been patient, if you hadn't seen through the armor ... We saved each other, I said simply. You reminded me there's life beyond survival. I reminded you there's strength beyond conquest. 5 years after that first disastrous date, Serafina stands in our garage, hands covered in grease, helping me rebuild an engine while Lily does homework at the workbench. She's still fierce at board meetings, but no longer cruel. She learned the difference between strength and hardness. I still check the locks, still prefer seats facing the door, still disappear into nightmares sometimes. But I laugh more, sleep better, and trust that good things can last